The eCom Q4 Summit was created to prove that any seller can experience a highly profitable fourth quarter with access to the right tips, strategies, and techniques. There's no need to struggle trying to figure out what to sell, where to find it, or how much to list it for. The summit covers everything from sourcing to listing to marketing and streamlining your operations. It doesn't matter if you're selling on one platform or multiple platforms like Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Walmart. And it doesn't matter if you're a new seller or an experienced seller. The information in the summit will help you get sale after sale after sale after sale during the busiest shopping season of the year, if you take massive action. So welcome to the eCom Q4 Summit.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Schick and I'm one of the attorneys with Rafelson Schick and Seller Basics. Today we're going to be talking about avoiding Amazon suspensions, so best practices for a healthy account. In particular, we're going to be talking about the account health dashboard and what all the different categories mean. So that way, if you have any red triangles, you can understand what those triangles mean and what would be expected to get those resolved. Mainly, the main goal of this is to avoid having one of the dog pages of Amazon. So if you ever have a suspended product, you'll know what I'm talking about. It means dogs page on Amazon means that the dogs show up. So whenever a product page doesn't exist, like it's been taken down or canceled or deleted, Amazon replaces it with a picture of a dog. So yeah, you want to avoid the dogs of Amazon. So let's get started. A little bit about our team. We're 100% US based, US licensed attorneys and team members that are dedicated towards seller success. So we've got 3 attorneys on staff. We've got 1 aspiring attorney, Katie, or actually we have 4 attorneys on staff, I'm sorry, and then 1 aspiring attorney, Katie. So how often do you check your account health dashboard? It's a really good question and something to think about. A lot of sellers will answer this question that they never check their account health dashboard. It's actually really important to check your account health dashboard regularly. You should ideally check it at least once a week. If you could do it once a day, it's even better. Right here, we're looking at in the middle section here. This is the account health dashboard on a desktop view. You would find this by going to sellercentral.amazon.com, hovering over the performance tab, and then clicking the first link, which is account health. So you'll see on the left-hand side, this is your order defect rates and customer service performance. The middle column is your product policy compliance. In there, it's broken down different types of categories. Like this person has a decent, pretty high numbers of different policy issues going on. On the left-hand side, you'll see an example of account health. When you look at it from the Amazon Seller app on an iPhone, you can find that account health dashboard in the Amazon Seller app by going to the home page and scrolling down to the bottom, and then there's going to be a link that says account health. If you push that, you'll be able to see. So if you compare the 2 accounts on the right, you've got an account that's got roughly 36 actual complaints and 44 suspected complaints against it. The account on the left has 0 complaints against it. Obviously, your target is going to be 0. The person on the right is very highly likely suspended at this point or at risk of suspension. So pro tip, you want to get cozy with the Amazon account health dashboard. You should try to check that account health dashboard daily and create a game plan for any items that you see. Remember, if you do nothing, it can be a very expensive mistake because those complaints and claims and suspensions will just continue to add up, and eventually you're going to get a call from the Amazon account health services team and tell you that you've got 72 hours to give them a plan of action for how you plan to address these issues, or they're just going to suspend your account and tell you that you have to come up with that plan of action to get it reinstated. IP complaints, I like to say, and inauthentic complaints are the easiest to resolve, yet the most common reason we see sellers get suspended. And that's because a lot of sellers get a large number of these complaints and just do nothing about it. So our advice, of course, as being a law firm, is always, if you can afford it, hire a lawyer for a professional account health review at least once per quarter, or sign up for a subscription like Seller Basics where account health reviews are complimentary. So that way you have just another set of eyes on your account that knows what they're looking for and can help advise when you've got issues. So let's talk about suspected intellectual property complaints. The most common reasons for suspected IP complaints is that the brand on your product detail page does not match what you're selling. So for instance, I have an example here, which is Cadbury cream eggs. So you look in the title And you can see right here in the title, it's Cadbury cream eggs, 5 pounds bulk, 60 eggs of Cadbury eggs. Sounds fine, nothing wrong there. So imagine that you find a great deal for Cadbury eggs when you're shopping at Walmart. You might say, great, I'm going to put it on this listing. But you forgot to notice this little thing in blue, which says brand : Belua's Candyland. So what does that mean if you put your listing there? Well, most likely Beulah has a trademark for their name. And so if they have a trademark and they're registered with brand registry, then in the future that could lead to a received intellectual property complaint. However, if it doesn't lead to a received IP complaint, you also could end up with a suspected IP suspension. Now, suspected intellectual property suspensions, this would happen because what more than likely would happen is that Amazon would put Cadbury in the suspected IP column, and it'd say that it's suspected trademark infringement for Cadbury because Beulah's Candyland for the brand doesn't match. So whenever you have one of these, the way you'd solve it is you look at the term that's in the parentheses. So you'll see suspected IP violation dash trademark and then parentheses with a word inside the parentheses. That word is what word it is suspended the listing for because it thinks it violates intellectual property. So how do you solve it? You simply pull up the product detail page. In manage inventory, you type in the ASIN, click at it, and then start looking at the product detail page. You want to look at the bullet points. You're going to want to look at the descriptions and the titles, and at the brand. You want to make sure that all that stuff is correct, and that if the product, for instance, in this case, if they had suspended it for being, a Cadbury violation, you'd want to change that brand from Beulah's Candyland to Cadbury. If you have a legitimate reason to have it be a different brand, then you would just simply reach out to seller performance and then work with them to resolve it and have that listing reinstated. Received intellectual property complaints. By far, one of the most common reasons we see sellers get suspended is received intellectual property complaints. Now, what does that actually mean? So received intellectual property complaints are where a brand has filed an IP complaint against the item you're selling. The most common type that we see is counterfeit, meaning a brand has alleged that you're selling counterfeit goods. However, there's also trademark infringement. That's second most common. Third most common would be copyright infringement, meaning a brand says that you've stolen their images, bullet points, or text. And fourth, the least common, but still types of IP complaints is design and utility patent infringement. It's really important you look at these and that you deal with them. First off, an intellectual property complaint is a brand reaching out to Amazon and saying that you're violating the law. So these do count against your account, and they could escalate to a suspension and or a lawsuit if you don't resolve it. For example, we've seen some brands that file IP infringement complaints, and then if you appeal it with Amazon and you keep selling their product, they turn around and actually sue the seller. Those are obviously very rare instances, but it is certainly possible, so it's something to think about. Remember that what you say to the brand could be used against you. If you send the brand an email apologizing for selling their products, and saying, we'll never do it again, and we didn't mean to do what we were doing. Some brands are not forgiving. So they may say, well, it doesn't matter that especially if they find that you were selling something that was, for instance, we've had sellers that accidentally sold counterfeit products, not realizing that they had purchased them from a bad source. Well, if you send that as an email to the brand, you've now given them perfect evidence. If you said, oh, I had no idea that this was, a problem, they may, and then you've put this in writing in an email and you apologize for it. Well, if they're the type of brand that wants you to pay damages and not just merely apologize, they want you to write them a check for their losses. Well, now you've given them everything they need to file a lawsuit against you. And guess what's going to be Exhibit A? It's going to be your own admissions. You should never hire a consultant to help with received intellectual property complaints. Simply put, intellectual property is a facet of law. If you type in intellectual property on Google, the number one thing that's going to pop up is intellectual property law firms. So if you get an IP complaint, you should be hiring someone who's licensed in the United States to help you address this. If they're not licensed to practice law, you're wasting your money because these are legal issues and only lawyers should be dealing with them. So Here's a pro tip for dealing with any type of complaint on Amazon, but especially intellectual property complaints. You want to keep very good records and receipts and invoices for your purchases. So what does this mean? The most common request that we see on Amazon when you've got a suspension is that they want you to turn over invoices and receipts for the last 365 days worth of sales on Amazon. A lot of sellers don't know what that means because it's confusing language, but basically, simply put, if you look up from January, from 365 days back from today. So assuming today is January 1st, you're going to go back a year to January 1st of 2019 to 2020. So that's 1 year. Assuming you're going to look at that time period. You're going to say, how many units of this ASIN did I sell? And if the answer is that you sold 30 ASINs, then you should have receipts that total up to at least 30 units per purchase during that time frame. It's okay. A lot of sellers will ask, oh, but I went to Marshall's or TJ Maxx and I bought it in 10 separate shopping trips. So each shopping trip I picked up 3 of them. That's totally fine. Amazon's not expecting you to have one receipt that has 30 units on it. So if you have to have 10 receipts, 20, 30 receipts even, say you have 30 receipts for 30 units, that's fine. We just the key thing is to scan it in and send it to Amazon for their review. Likewise, it's an important point because some sellers don't think that they'll ever get caught. But if you don't have a receipt, you shouldn't make a receipt, and you should definitely not alter a receipt. The most common reason that sellers get caught for altering receipts is that Amazon has a telephone. So if you have and they know what these receipts look like, they have a database that stores invoices and receipts. So if you send them a receipt from Costco and it looks the slightest bit odd, not only is their software going to flag it as a potential forgery, but they're going to simply pick up the phone and they're going to ask Costco, they're going to say, this is the receipt number, this is the item number, is this all valid, and does it check out? And Costco is going to tell them, no, that's fake, and then you're going to be suspended permanently from Amazon. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you don't have a receipt, it's better to if you're missing receipts than try to doctor a receipt, because you will get caught doctoring a receipt and you won't sell on Amazon ever again. Product authenticity customer complaints, these are known as inauthentic complaints. They're another common reason for Amazon sellers to get suspended, but they're also misunderstood by sellers a lot of times. So what exactly are they? Well, first things first, they are not counterfeit complaints. Inauthentic complaint does not mean that a brand has reported you for selling counterfeit products. So where do they come from? They actually could come from a variety of places. It could be that a buyer loaded their return report with a bunch of keywords like, oh, items seems fake. That's really a common reason to get triggered for an inauthentic complaint. Oftentimes, though, we also see sellers get busted with inauthentic complaints because another seller was caught selling actual counterfeits. So, for instance, in your high-risk categories, Nike, Under Armour, Coach, the items, the brands that are high risk of counterfeits, Amazon might catch another seller on the exact same listing who has fake Nike shoes, and then you get asked to provide authenticity documentation for your shoes. In this case, you did nothing wrong. Nobody complained about your product, but they're just doing it as a preventative measure to make sure that that everybody's on the up and up because somebody wasn't. So you should never think that these are being held against you. They can happen for a wide variety of reasons, and oftentimes it's probably not even your fault at all. They can also be caused, by other issues too. Amazon sometimes will used sold as new type problem that ends up as an authenticity customer complaint. Again, your invoices are going to be absolutely crucial here because you have to have proper documentation to support your sales velocity for the past 365 days. So that leads us to the next major category in the account health dashboard, which is the product condition customer complaints category. Product condition customer complaints can be a variety of complaints. The most common one is the used sold as new complaint. After that, the second most common would be defective, followed by not as seller described, and then just a wide variety of other little lesser, complaints that happen on Amazon. These are solved by having a plan of action plus invoices covering the last year of sales of the product. So again, those invoices are going to come in to be extremely crucial. In fact, we've helped sellers before who have absolutely perfect plans of action that were maybe even written by other attorneys, but then they didn't know that they had to turn in invoices, and so they hire us because they keep getting the appeal keeps getting rejected, and then we simply go, oh, you need to attach your invoices, and they attach those invoices. We, make a couple changes to the POA, and then boom, they're reinstated. So invoices for these types of complaints are absolutely crucial. And again, just making sure you've got really good invoices is really key. Product safety complaints are another major topic of consideration for Amazon sellers. We've been seeing more and more of these lately. Expiration dates are extremely common. So if you're selling an expiration dated product, the Amazon rule is that it has to be printed on the bottle or item itself, and it has to be have at least 6 months validity from when it gets there. So if you're sending in an item that arrives on January 1st, it cannot expire before July 1st. Otherwise, Amazon would expect that you not send that in. So other things to think about that can happen is safety testing data issues. Those are often where Amazon wants safety data. So maybe you've made a safety claim, or maybe someone has made an issue about your product. Amazon may ask you to, substantiate that the product is safe, and so they'll just take it down until you provide them with safety testing. This is really common with the MSDS, so material safety data sheets. Product recalls are another common type of product safety complaint. If you're selling a product that's subject to a recall, Amazon will take it down. And if it's a private label product, it's on you to provide the safety testing to show that it's now safe, and work with the CPSC to find a remedy. We often, you absolutely, in the product recall situation, you have to have legal counsel. It would be extremely dangerous to try to DIY a product recall because there are, we have one seller that did just that recently, and they hired us after their name started being attacked by product recall plaintiff's lawyers. So now when you type his company name, the first 10 things that show up on Google for Google ads are not his company's name, but actually law firms, where it says, have you been harmed by such and such? And they're paying for these Google keywords. And so it's saying, have you been harmed by such and such product? We want to hear from you. And that, and so those obviously product recalls, you absolutely do not want to DIY those at all if it's a private label product. If it's a product that you're selling via retail arbitrage or online arbitrage, our advice is to delete the listing, recall the inventory, and return it to the manufacturer for replacement, and deal with it once they've resolved it themselves. Fix-it suspensions is when Amazon, we call them a fix-it because they send you something and they would like for you to, basically fix it, meaning either give them documentation, fix your safety manual, fix your product page. Either way, it's safety related. They want your product safety issues to be fixed, and then they'll just put it back up. It's not to the level of requiring, strict safety testing or a product recall, but it is enough for them to want you to fix whatever is causing the issue. It's really important that you read notifications carefully and that you comply with the deadlines provided by the safety team. Safety complaints, often are the result of, customers getting injured. So you need to be extremely careful with what you say, because if you did sell a product that hurts somebody, in the United States, we have strict products liability, which means that the sellers of a product are responsible for any harm that it causes. That's obviously legal speak. In real human speak, that means if you sell a product and it hurts somebody, it doesn't matter that it's not your product, you could still get sued for it. So safety suspensions you need to be really careful with, because there is a chance that it could escalate into something more, especially if the product that you sold did hurt somebody. Listing policy violations. These are really important to deal with immediately. So these often escalate into account suspensions when sellers bury their heads in the sands. So what triggers a listing policy violation? Well, the most common one is variation abuse. So variation abuse typically happens when a seller uses an improper variation relationship, such as, for instance, they might be selling a a water bottle, and it comes in a small and a large, and then they choose a color variation instead of a size variation. Or maybe they choose, they choose size variation for something that has to do with um, something totally unrelated to size. Likewise, choosing color for something totally unrelated to color. Those all can cause variation abuse, the listing to be taken down for variation abuse. And if you get too many of those, you can actually cause your entire account to be suspended as well. So obviously, when you get one of those variation abuse suspensions, you want to appeal it as quickly as you can. Even if you're in the wrong and you don't plan on selling the product again, you still want to appeal that suspension so that way it doesn't count against you. Just simply delete the listing when you're done. Product detail page abuse is really common with private label sellers. You can get taken down for having emojis in your bullet points, for having any sort of improper, claims. So we had someone recently reach out to us that was selling a product that they said, best materials, most highly recommended type of XYZ product in America. Most of these specialists recommend this product. Yeah, the problem with that is that most, best, highest rated, all of that, if it's not actually the best, if it's not actually recommended, if it's not actually, you know, won, won, nationally recognized awards, and you're using that kind of language, it's misleading marketing, and Amazon views that as a breach of customer trust, and so they'll hit you with a product detail page abuse suspension. So again, just be really careful when you've got a private label product that you're not using that sort of over the top language that, you know, is not only misleading but untrue. If you haven't won an award, don't say award winning. You also can't say highest rated on Amazon. That you will get taken down for that one as well too. Brand tampering is another really common suspension we're seeing lately. It's when on Amazon they have a policy that if you start a listing and it's brand XYZ, you can't later change the brand name to ABC unless you have a really valid reason for that change. And those can be really tough to overturn if you get caught with brand tampering because you changed your brand name. Even in totally legitimate situations, it comes down to you got to have documentation to back up why your brand is changing. Because what one of the common black hat tactics is that black hat sellers will find, orphaned products that are no longer in use, and then they'll start changing the brand and changing other attributes. So the brand tampering suspension is really introduced to avoid that from happening, but it can sometimes get innocent sellers as well. ASIN creation policy violations are also very common types of listing policy violations. Those simply mean, like, for instance, creating a duplicate ASIN. So for instance, KitchenAid products, which is by Whirlpool, those are all gated. So if you go in and create a new brand, a new class of product because you're gated from selling KitchenAid, that could cause you to be suspended for having an ASIN creation policy violation. Oftentimes, if you get too many of those, they'll actually take away your ability to create and update ASINs going forward, which can be really damaging to your business if you especially if you're a private label seller. It's pretty much a death sentence for the private label business. Dropshipping policy violations are increasingly more common, and we're helping a lot of sellers. A lot of sellers don't necessarily know that dropshipping is permitted, but only in very limited circumstances on Amazon. So those 4 characteristics are that you have to identify yourself as the seller of record for the products you're selling. Your store name has to be on the packing slips and packaging. You cannot have packaging that identifies the third-party dropshipper, and you have to process your own customer returns. Simply put, that means if I'm using a dropshipper to ship a product for me, it has to say that it's being shipped from and sold by Jeff, and I would have to process the returns, and the packaging couldn't say, that I'm purchasing it from XYZ distributor. It should just say that, neutral, that it's sold to Jeff, ships to customer name. The following websites can never be used for, drop shipping. And I use that in quotes because some people have created these, amazing scams where they will sell sellers on the idea that you can go to, for instance, like Walmart.com and buy products and sell them on Amazon, and only buy them from Walmart when the orders come in. So meaning like a customer placed an order on Amazon for a product you have listed, you go to Walmart and then ask Walmart to ship the product to the customer. That's absolutely against policy. So purchasing goods from another online retailer and having that retailer shipped directly to customers, is prohibited by the seller code of conduct. So the following websites should never be used for drop shipping: Walmart.com, Costco, Sam's Club, Home Depot, and especially not Amazon.com. You can't buy a product. You can't list a product on Amazon and then use Amazon to fulfill the product via FBA when the order comes in. You will get busted for that one. Restricted product policy violations are also increasingly common. In the era of COVID and restrictions on PPE, these are more and more common. So COVID supplies are a restricted product policy. So Lysol wipes, N95 masks, any healthcare related supplies, personal protective equipment, PPE. Those are all things that are covered by Amazon's COVID-19 policy. Will want to check that out, make sure you don't fall into any traps with that. Some sellers had the idea that they could simply get around these restricted products violations by putting products, in a different category. So for instance, if you're selling an N95 mask, saying that it's a broomstick, unfortunately, Amazon will catch that, and you'll end up getting suspended for abusing customer trust. Drugs and drug paraphernalia can never be sold on Amazon. Especially be careful when it comes to CBD and hemp products. There are a lot of landmines there. It is, THC is still illegal under federal law, even in states where it's recreationally legal. So Amazon is extremely strict on that. People would think like, oh, Amazon's based in Washington, where it's legal, so it must be fine. And the answer to that is actually no, it's not. So be very careful, especially if you're selling CBD products. Make sure you have lab tests for CBD products that show that there is no THC, because if Amazon has any doubt as to whether your product has THC, it will be removed, and you'll probably have your seller account suspended. Another really important thing to think about is that if you have a restricted products policy violation, you want to actually delete that listing within 24 hours of being notified of it. So Amazon gives you the option to just close it. We recommend people take it a step further and actually delete that listing within 24 hours. So I really appreciate everything that y'all have taken the time to watch this. We've talked about a lot of concepts, a lot of pro tips on what to do, how it works. One thing to think about is sometimes it's better to have a professional set of eyes doing these account health reviews, and so that's why we designed Seller Basics. My background as an attorney, I started selling in 2011. I was an Amazon seller. That was my junior year of college. I used it to pay for college and then put myself through law school at the University of Pennsylvania. I grew that business to over $2.4 million in revenue while I was enrolled full-time in law school. So I learned a lot about selling. I've been in your shoes. I've done pack and prep. I've done customer service. I've done every aspect of running an Amazon business, from creating listings to selling products. And now as an attorney, I'm able to help sellers grow their businesses. So we offer, we're the first law firm to come up with our Seller Basics monthly legal subscription. So for $99 a month, you get unlimited complimentary account health reviews, unlimited consultations with our attorneys on virtually any business law topic, discounts on IP claim resolution if you have any of those received intellectual property complaints, substantial discounts on suspended ASINs like those listing violations and product condition customer complaints. And we also have a declining service fee model for our account suspensions. So not only are account suspensions the cheapest in the industry at $750, but after 12 months of membership, that cost goes down every single month, so that after 12 months of membership, there's actually no service fee if your account gets suspended. So our law firm will write the appeals for you and help you get your account reinstated at no charge if you're a Seller Basics member and you've been with us for over 12 months. So Seller Basics is really designed as a seller-first solution for making your account health easy. We do have a special offer for the attendees here. We have a free account health review for attendees who sign up for Seller Basics. And for paid members of the All Access Pass, who sign up for Seller Basics, you'll actually get a $299 voucher that can be used for a 1-hour Amazon strategy session on whatever you'd like to talk about. So that's a huge benefit for the paid members. I really appreciate everyone's time today and hope that you enjoyed this presentation. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. We offer the unlimited complimentary account health reviews, as well as unlimited complimentary consultations for members of Seller Basics on anything that you heard in this presentation. I'd be happy to jump on a call and talk to you one-on-one about how it applies to your specific business. I hope you guys have a great fourth quarter, and wish you guys the best of luck in business this year.